Welcome to the Voter Interest Project's candidate interviews for 2023. I'm Alan McPheeters, Executive Director of the Voter Interest Project. Our mission is to provide voters with the information they need to make informed decisions about government, candidates, and ballot measures. Our focus is local. We cover Island County, its cities and towns, and various special districts, as well as the representatives from the 10th Legislative District. The 2023 elections are local and nonpartisan. We are covering 44 elective offices on this year's ballot, including mayors, city councilors, school board directors, and commissioners for hospital, port, fire, parks, and cemetery districts. 67 candidates filed for these offices during filing week in May, and we've invited all of them to do interviews for you. We also have extensive coverage of these elections and the actions of these government agencies on our website, voterinterests.com. The following interview is with Jessica Thompson, a candidate for Director Position 4 at the Oak Harbor School District. We provided a list of potential questions to the candidate in advance of the interview. All right, well, good evening. It is Wednesday, August the 23rd. We're here with Jessica Thompson, who is running for Oak Harbor School District Director Position number 4. Jessica, welcome to the Voter Interest Project.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Where are you today? Are you at home or in an office? Or
I'm at home in my bedroom, trying to stay away from the rest of the family.
Sure. That's always a little tricky.
Someplace where it's quiet.
Yes, that's the tricky part. Very good. Let's open up with just a few questions, sort of set the stage here for people to know who you are. Are you married or single?
I am married. I've been married for 6 years.
6 years. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. And you have children?
I do. We have 2 boys, a almost 13-year-old and an almost 5-year-old.
Okay, so one in the school district and one on the edge of getting in, then I take it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very
yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, were you raised here on Whidbey, or did you move here? How did you come to be here?
So military. I was raised in the state of Washington and Olympia, but got up here through my husband, who was 22 years, active for 22 years, retired in June of 21, and we just loved it so much that we ended up staying. So, but yeah, military, as most Oak Harbor goes.
Yes, that's true. It's funny. I was talking to a candidate who lives in Central Whidbey, and we were talking about that question. And I had somebody say, "That's so weird question. Why do you keep asking that?" But that was a person who lives in Clinton, not here in Oak Harbor. So more important here, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely different on the rest of the island.
Yes. So now, are you working outside the home? Or are you taking care of your kids? What's your professional background?
Yeah. Well, I was in the workforce up until about 2021. I did some real estate. I was there was a time where I was an executive assistant. But then 2021, a lot happened, and my husband and I decided to come out of that and just, be a stay-at-home mom, which I just absolutely love. And so along with that, and then I homeschool. Well, my son goes to Home Connection, so it's part homeschool, part that parent partnership school. So he gets to take electives there. And then I last year, November of 22, I was elected as our state committee woman for the Island County Republican Party. So and then I was also elected as to be a PCO. So between those two things, that's keeping me busy, along with being a stay-at-home mom. Those 3 things keep me very busy. And then last summer, I also worked for the Tiffany Smiley campaign. So I've been the last couple of years really involved in state and local politics. So that seems to not really my day job, but outside of being a stay-at-home mom, that's where I have a lot of my focus and spend a lot of my time.
Very good. Very good. And then you ran for, was it this same seat 2 years ago? Or was it?
It was, yeah. It was the same seat. It was, yep. Same position 4. Yep. same seat. Yep.
Very, very, I think that was the closest race in Island County.
I believe it was, yes.
Take another swipe at it. Very good.
Yeah.
Outside of your connection with the ICRP and then being involved with the school board campaign, have you been on any, municipal boards or commissions or community organizations, anything like that?
Nothing, no community boards, but I have been involved with the community. I mean, I was a softball coach for five years. I coached my son's t-ball. I've been in children's ministry for over 10 years. So
very good.
I've definitely been involved with community outreach type activities for sure.
Outstanding. Very good. So how is it that you came to decide to run for the school board?
Yeah. Well, so I'm running on four core issues. I'll just give them real quick. Parental rights, providing high quality education, transparency, and then bringing education back to the local level. But the two issues that got me really involved the last few years was the parental rights issue and just the failure at the state level, really, of education. The state 2022, the state came out with test scores, and 62% of Washington students failed math, 49% failed English. Our students as a whole are not proficient in or at grade level at most subjects. So seeing that and knowing that our Constitution actually states that it is a paramount, it is the state government's paramount duty to offer high quality education. And then you also see, in the last few years, 49,000 students have left public education to either go to private school or being homeschooled. So you look at that and say, okay, what's the culprit? What's going on here? Well, I do not feel that our state government, I don't feel that public education in the state of Washington is really into actually educating our children. And I have some things to back that up. I mean, we can look at test scores, but also we know a lot of people are familiar with the social emotional learning that is being implemented. We know about the diversity, equity, inclusion that's being implemented. We know about all the social justice and the gender inclusivity, all these other things that are taking away from our children actually learning basic subjects. And, so coupled with, parents just year by year in this state, their rights are being eroded. They are being, taken away. I just, decided that this has got to stop. I mean, parents are the number one stakeholders in their children's education. And yet the state almost looks at us like we are the problem. And so I am 100% behind parents. I will support and defend parents' rights. I want them to be engaged. I want them to be involved in their kids' education. I want to be transparent with them if elected. I want them to know what's going on in the classroom. And then also I want to bring back high quality education. I want to prioritize what's important. And what's important is that our children are actually going to school and learning subjects, learning things that are going to help them in the real world. They're going to set them apart, that are going to help them achieve their fullest potential. And this other stuff is just a distraction. There's other things that are being implemented, they're distractions, and they're taking away from our children's ability to actually get a really good education. So those are the two, main reasons why I wanted to jump into the race.
Sure. Well, and I did a little research. Actually, this is maybe a month or so old. Actually, data's from a couple years back, because we interviewed Will Smith prior to the primary, and in looking that up, Oak Harbor High School has a 93% on-time graduation rate, despite the numbers that you just talked about. Low numbers, especially on math and science. What, as a member of the school board, how do you fix that problem? What's the lever that you can pull there?
Mm-hmm. Well, we prioritize education and we prioritize high quality education. Our kids are, like I said earlier, they're being distracted with these other things, and it's taking away from the important integral classroom time that they have to actually, to learn subjects. And there isn't, there isn't the push for that type of education. Yes, there is the high cap and there's things of that nature, but your basic run of the mill, I mean, I've talked to teachers, I've talked to parents, they're just passing them. They're not, there isn't this emphasis on really educating our children. It is just a pass, let's just pass them, let's just graduate them, and then they're not our problem anymore. And we need to get back to taking onus of what are, the responsibility of public education, and that and education, and that's to educate and to help our kids prepare for the real world. And that's not happening. I've talked to a lot of teachers, they are just passing them. They're just, because they can't fail them, so they're passing them. And teachers are so fed up because they see these kids that should be held back, or they should be getting extra, help, or and they have to pass them, and it breaks their hearts because they know that they are not helping them. So we've got a lot to change.
I've wondered about that for a long time, and I don't know what the answer is. You're closer to the situation than I am, so maybe you have some insight. Why do they have to pass them? Is it a district policy? Is it a state policy? Why are kids pushed up to the next grade when they're not performing at grade level?
I believe that's a state policy.
Oh,
I believe it's a state policy. But again, so also, which we can get into later, but if that is a state policy, so one of the things that I'm also running on is bringing education back to the local level. School board members in our state RCW, we have the broad discretion to set policy, to to approve curriculum, things of those nature. So if this is coming down from the state, okay, but we don't have to follow. So if there's statutory and then there's bureaucratic code.
right.
If it's not a law, then why are so many school board members just blanket, these blanket policies are coming down, and school boards are just mindlessly saying, okay, we'll adopt it. Well, it's not doing anything for the kids. So we can implement policy where we say, no, we're not going to just pass a child that needs extra work. We're not going to do that. And we can do that because there's nothing in law that says that we cannot. These, again, are like bureaucratic codes. These are bureaucratic policies that come down from, top down, that we can say, no, we're actually going to be a school district that is going to make sure that children that move on are at grade level. They are testing at grade level. They are, they are mature enough. We're not just going to pass them just so that we can have these high graduation rates, which, you said it, we have these high graduation rates, but as a whole in the state of Washington, our students are not proficient at grade level. The majority of our kids in the state are not proficient at most subjects across the board. It's pathetic.
Yeah. So this is a weird year. All 5 seats on the school board are up for election this year. But we know that Lynn Goebel's coming back because she's running unopposed. On the other hand, we know Bob Hallahan's not coming back because he chose not to run for re-election. So if you're elected, that means one holdover, one new person. The 3 in the other positions could go either way. We don't know how that's going to work out. And the people, the people who are on the board already are the ones who have passed these policies. So if you end up elected, but you have 3 people on the school board with you who were here when passed those policies, how are you going to be able to persuade them that we're making a mistake with the policies that we've put in place already?
I think it's just communication, and it's educating, and it's pushback. I mean, I am not one to just go along with what WASDA tells us to do, or what, if elected, what even the National School Association, what they, recommend, what WASDA, what OSPE. I'm not going to be one that's just going to go along and just adopt this blanket all for one model. So it will just be one of, constant pushback and education, and and being transparent to parents too, because we need to get more, this is a problem and parents know it. I mean, this isn't just, this is coming from a lot of parents in the district, a lot of parents across the state, a lot of teachers. They know, they see the numbers. They saw what happened during COVID, during the lock. They saw their kids get behind. They're aware, they're familiar with what's going on. And so it really is also just reaching, getting the community more engaged and, more involved to really, come out to these, to more school board members and school board meetings, and, exercise their right as community citizens and say, we need to do better. And so, obviously if I'm in the minority, you need a majority to make things happen. But if I'm in the minority, I'm just going to continue to educate my board members on what's really going on, and just encourage them to do the right thing, encourage them to be courageous and not have to just go along with the flow with what we're being told. And I know that a lot of boards, they get threatened. Our OSFI, they have very threatening tactics.
I'm going to interject.
I've heard from many. What was that?
I just want to interject there because I know what you're talking about when you say OSFI, but not necessarily everybody who's watching this will. That's the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Yes.
And you also made reference to WASDA. That's
WASDA, Washington School Directors Association. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I forget. My husband always he always has to remind me. He's like, I don't know the acronyms, and I'm like, oh, sorry.
That's a little tough. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow, but I wanted to.
So the office, Office of Public Instruction in the state of Washington, along with Washington School Directors Association, along with the National School Association, school unions, a lot of these organizations, they have their guidelines, they have their policies, and I've talked to many school board members. They will threaten, they want the top down model.
Right.
So they will threaten school board members to comply. And I think that if more school board, we're actually seeing it across the state, that more school board members are adopting the local control, like bringing back local control and getting the community engaged and listening to the needs and the wants of the community, as opposed to, the bureaucrats. When that continues to happen, more that happens, we're just going to have more ammunition, to say, and have more of those boards in support. We'll have that support to say, no, we are going to function at a local level. Are there laws that we have to follow? Absolutely, yes. But the policies that we can set locally, I'm just going to continue to encourage the board members to do that.
Okay, fair enough. So you mentioned social emotional learning, SEL, and that's been a big topic in a lot of schools. I'm reminded, I'm not familiar with it. It sounds, I'm a little uncomfortable with the idea. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm a big fan of there used to be a guy, a theologian 100 years ago. His name was G.K. Chesterton. And Chesterton used to use this example of the gate. Okay, so there's a gate across the road, and nobody really remembers why the gate was put up, or at least the people who don't want the gate to be there anymore don't know why it was put up. And Chesterton said, if you can explain to me why the gate is there, then I may allow you to take the gate down. That is, if you know the problem it was trying to solve, and you can say, that problem doesn't exist anymore, or that the solution was bad, or whatever, we can do something to change it. What do you think is the reason that schools are putting this social emotional learning in place? Is there a problem they're trying to solve, and is it just that they picked the wrong solution? What's going on here?
I don't think they're trying to solve a problem. I think they're trying to create a problem. Social emotional learning is the vehicle in which public education can usher in all their indoctrination tentacles for diversity, equity, inclusion, for CRT, for social justice, for gender inclusivity, all of it. It's the vehicle. And it creates a problem. And then the schools can then justify using those tools to then try to find the solutions to the trauma in which they created. And I know this is a very controversial topic, but that's what it is. It's what it is. It's a way in which public education can usher in this culture change. And so, what happens is these kids take these surveys, and then the data is collected, and then they are looked at through an equity lens. So they have these, what are they called? They're theorists. They're equity, social equity theorists.
Okay.
So right there, that's biased. I mean, if that's your job, if that's your profession as a theorist, you're already, this is already a biased position of these people that are, looking over this information. So this information is collected. It's graded through an equity lens. Answers are scored. Results then are stored and evaluated. And this is where it gets scary. And this is what I tell a lot of parents is your children's information is being mined. It's being mined to third-party vendors. And a lot of school districts have no idea where it's going. They just do the surveys. They say, okay, they give out the surveys. The kids take the surveys. The parents don't know any of this. And the next thing they know, their children's information is being mined to these third-party vendors. And I've seen these surveys. Some of these questions are really personal. They're really intimate. A lot of them are, they're just, I would not, and I mean, I always opt my child out, but I would not want my children's answers to a lot of these being stored in mind, with these other organizations, these other vendors, which who knows who's looking at these. Right. So that's what I tell parents. I'm like, this information that is being collected on your child is being stored. It's being mined in third-party vendors. And most districts have no idea what organizations are storing this information. Wow. So then the fourth thing is that the results, so they get the results. And since it goes through an equity lens, already a biased process anyway, these results then now require, because again, they've created this problem. Okay. Now they have the answers that they want to then justify the means. So now they begin to change the culture of the school, and the students then are radicalized into this new culture. And it's just an ongoing, continuous cycle. They create the problem, and then they get the answers they want. And then, okay, see, look, we have this racism issue. We have this issue. We have this. And it's just this ongoing cycle. And so they create the problem so that they can come in and justify the implementation of a completely different school culture. And, I saw that you had sent me that I did say on Facebook, that social emotional learning teaches that all children have some sort of trauma due to unconscious racial and gender bias. It creates a system of trauma so that they can treat more trauma. That's exactly what it is. They believe whoever these people that are coming up with this, this idea, they believe that every single child has some sort of trauma due to an unconscious racial and gender bias. It's utter nonsense. It's not true. It's a lie. They're creating problems that do not exist, and so that they can come in and change cultures in school and radicalize these kids. It's indoctrination. It's complete indoctrination, and parents need to know what's going on, because your kid's information is being stored, and it's creating a social credit score, like what they do in China. Right. These kids are going to have these scores based on these social emotional learning surveys. So when they get to college or find a job, are these answers that they took when they were younger, that they, probably were like really didn't know what they were answering because maybe they didn't really understand it. Are these answers going to follow them the rest of their life? Well, it's very, there's a good possibility that these answers will be following them. So it's scary. It's
the way you're describing it reminds me of my first year going to the University of Washington. And I took a Psych 101 class. It was early in the term, my first year there. And we were talking about surveys and things like that. I'm all gung-ho about this, walking down the street in the university district, and this guy on the sidewalk says, "Hey, do you want to take this survey?" So I said, "Sure," because I'm all keen on surveys. Well, he was a Scientologist, and it was a personality test. And I believe that no matter what answers I'd given to the personality test, the answer was, we could really help you out by selling you this communication class. Come in and take our class. It's an
Right.
introduction to the whole, that whole business.
Right.
That's
Right.
that's a little scary.
Right. I mean, they manipulate the questions. They manipulate the questions so that they can garner the answers they want. And I have actually an example of a sample question, because I've seen a lot of these SEL surveys. I've seen a lot of the questions. So for example, one question: how confident are you that you can complete all the work that is assigned in your classes? Okay. So what it's really saying from the equity lens is these scores will indicate school culture is suppressing their ability to complete work. So depending on how they answer that, that is going to, they're going to get an answer that they're just answering it honestly, but it's coming from an equity, lens.
Mhm.
And it's going to, try to say that there's not enough support or resources for certain groups. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that somebody, as opposed to, well, maybe there's just some stuff happening at home or whatever whatever's going on. It can be interpreted that there is actually like some racial, some gender component to that, and that there's, the school culture is actually suppressing that child's ability to, to complete their work. So it's really scary, and we don't need it. I tell parents, opt out, because if more parents opted out, they wouldn't need these surveys. And I actually would be really curious, and I'm surprised I haven't asked the board yet, but I would be really surprised to know how much time and money does our school district put into promoting social emotional learning surveys, when that time could be spent on maybe say, hey, let's get our kids reading scores up, let's get our kids math scores up, let's like actually teach them civics, let's teach them things that are actually going to help them in life. I would really because when these surveys come out, our district plasters it everywhere. It's like, and how much money do they spend? That's what I'd like to know. How much money do you spend on these surveys? So I know it's really controversial, but it is happening. This is something that we do not want to engage in at all. I think it's so destructive. And there are 3 districts in the state that do not do these surveys.
Oh, really? Where are those?
Yep. One is Chehalis, and I'm trying to remember, because it was a Zoom meeting I was on, and she had mentioned the 3, and when I heard Chehalis, I was like, ding ding, because my parents, my mom was down that area, and I've actually heard a lot of things about the Chehalis School District, a lot of things that they are doing right. So that just that caught my ear, because I know that area. Sure. And they are not doing the surveys.
Interesting. Okay. My little timer caught my eye. We're down to just a couple minutes left, so we probably should wrap up. This has been fascinating. So if people want to know more about you and what you're campaigning on and that kind of thing, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? Do you have a web page or Facebook page or social media or email, or how do you want to reach you?
My Facebook page, Jessica Thompson, my website, Jessica Thompson, or it's Jessica Thompson / oh my gosh, you know what? Actually, let me look that, because I haven't been on it in so long.
Oh no.
But let me pull it up real quick, and you can ask me something else and I will find it. Sure. But then just my Facebook, like you can leave me messages on my Facebook. And I check that quite often. But here, let me, because it's saved on my computer.
So we'll make sure, we were talking before we got started about how this gets distributed. And so when we put this on YouTube, we'll have in the description of the video, we'll have all these connections, ways to get hold of you, and the same way for when we put this on the website, so that people will have a chance to learn more about you.
Okay, well, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. I'm not finding my website right now. I know I haven't. I don't know if you want me to email it to you
Yeah,
later or.
we can
Okay.
pick it up later, and we'll just make sure it gets out
Okay.
of those places.
Okay.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very
Thank
helpful
you.
for our viewers. You bet. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah.
You bet. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You have a wonderful night.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you for watching our interview with Jessica Thompson, who's running for school director position 4 at the Oak Harbor School District. We invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, available in 4 local editions: Camino Island, North Whidbey, Central Whidbey, and South Whidbey. The newsletter arrives in your mailbox every Monday morning with news and events from your part of Island County. Subscribe to our newsletter at voterinterests.com/subscribe. And look for more of these candidate interviews as the election season continues. Thank you and good night.